Hello, Dale.
Hi, Mike. Great.
Hi there.
How are you?
I'm doing good. How
Nice.
are you doing this morning?
I'm doing fine. Nice to meet you.
Same here, my friend. Thank you. Thank you for having me on your show.
Yeah, welcome to F.A.C.E. So I've been rethinking the dollar, and what I've been rethinking is no one ever seems to have enough of them.
Correct. And no one will ever have enough of them because our cost of living will continue to increase. Therefore, there's no way of keeping pace with that, in my opinion. So
Okay.
that's a problem we all face.
So I see that your target audience is millennials, and
Ideally, yeah.
okay. All right. So they're real crypto fanatics. So
Yeah.
what do you profess to them? But that doesn't have isn't blockchain.
Isn't
As
blockchain? Good
yeah.
question there. So one of my main thoughts and one of my main philosophies is, first of all, monetary literacy or monetary awareness. And so I'm a somewhat of a silver enthusiast still because I believe that silver is the most underappreciated and undervalued money source or commodity slash money, still in existence. So I tell people, first of all, stick with what got you to this point, and that being most of my audience are from the alternative media world. And so the crypto phase, to me, I'm still somewhat skeptical because it's a new technology, but yet has a lot of promise to it. But yet I don't tell people to really get too involved in that other than to sticking to what you can physically hold in your hand. And for me, that's, my favorite, which is silver. So I don't tell people to
Mike.
chasing digits. Go ahead.
Okay, so we're getting a nice break in silver. Looks like it's going to challenge $16. Do you just have people kind of be on automatic pilot and just buy a little when they can, every time they can, or do you pick out price levels that are attractive for people to buy physical?
Very good question there. So me personally, I don't really concern myself with the day-to-day price because I'm of the mindset that the actual price in of itself is not what it should be in comparison to all the fiat currency that's floating around. And so I tell people to definitely buy what you can afford, but I'm more of the mindset of just buying fractional silver just to have on hand in anticipation of something down the line occurring to where you might need to use it in the form of barter or in the form of some type of daily transaction. So my motto is just accumulate as much as you can in the form of a savings. And so that's how I would recommend people do, or what I encourage people to do.
So in what form? In bullion? I remember having junk silver bags, and I would get a hernia trying to move it from my house into the hole in the backyard, carrying that thing. So.
Right. Good point there. So it's any method is good. Whatever you can carry or whatever you can afford. So I love the small gram bars and whatnot, and little decorative type coins. And so of course it takes up space, but yet, I encourage people to have real small increments. So the dime bags and whatnot will be ideal, but I still love my rounds as well, and still a big fan of the Silver Eagle. So for me, more so is just how much weight do you have in total, as opposed to what size or how many ounces or whatnot. So just at the end of the day, the more you have, the better, I believe.
How do you know you have a dealer that has integrity and isn't raping you on spreads or misrepresenting the product that you're buying? How do you do due diligence on purchasing your silver?
I have a variety of sources, whether I have some affiliates from my YouTube channel or I have local coin shops not too far from me of gentlemen I've been dealing with for quite a while. So I would, tell people to basically scan the market, price the market. There's, a variety of online places you can go. Of course, all have their own different markups or whatnot and different incentives, whether it be free shipping or whatnot. But yet, at the end of the day, it's good to have one or two good sources online that you can rely upon, as well as getting to know some people in your community, whether it be at a coin shop or something of that nature. So having a variety of places to pick from would probably be best for you.
And Mike, let me ask you this. The gold-silver ratio recently has begun to come in a little bit. So, we're kind of at extremes there. And, I remember seeing it 40-to-1 kind of natural regression to the mean. Tell us why you prefer owning silver over gold. What's the more bullish case for silver? Could it be solar panels in California?
Not necessarily that. When it comes to just me being more bullish on silver, is the idea that for me being someone of Main Street type of means, I'm not a conventional financial forex type of guy. So I tell people, just similar to myself, it's affordable, and so not too many people can actually purchase the quantity of gold as they can in silver. So I encourage people just to get silver because it's the cheapest, and in the future, I do believe that the ratio will get back to their normal means of that 15, 16, or some people even say closer to 1 to 1 on the extreme case. So I think you have a much better chance of retaining some purchasing power as well as probably coming out ahead in the future by acquiring silver. So I typically, as I mentioned, don't really follow the price, but more so just the idea that silver is it's way undervalued in my opinion. So well worth having as much as you can.
All right, so why don't we get to I went to your website, and you and I have interviewed a few of the same people, like David Morgan and a few other people. So oh, look, you have a whole store of clothes and everything. Tell us what you think is going to happen, and if you have any kind of time horizon. Do you think this trade war is just more confirmation, whether it happens or not, that you are a believer that the dollar is going to lose its reserve currency status, correct?
I do believe that it technically has already lost its global reserve status. It's just it hasn't been officially revealed to the public eye. And so I'm sure you're aware, as well as a lot of the alternative media world space, they're aware of the fact that more and more nations have bought onto that de-dollarization concept. And so with all the things happening outside of this country here, and the idea that most countries are either using their own currencies or they form some type of bilateral trade agreements or trilateral trade agreements, the Federal Reserve note is not necessarily something that countries still need to have in their reserves. So in that case, that lets me know that they have begun rethinking the dollar already and no longer really depend upon it. And so just a matter of time before it becomes more mainstream and all those Federal Reserve notes has been printed in, as well as the digits come back to this country where they were first created. And then that's when, in my opinion, we'll have some major problems. And some of my prior guests mentioned hyperinflation and all types of things, but there's no time frame to it, but other than just it's underway, in my opinion. And so that's another reason I tell people to make sure you're prepared in multiple ways, whether it be with your, on the financial side, with your living as far as food, and having just being able to sustain yourself if there's some reason you can't.
So you talk to people about being a prepper to prepare for this. Doesn't the fact that sanctions, which normally include not being allowed, a country being allowed to operate in the SWIFT system and the banking system, still seems to have a bite? And if there was an alternative, why do people even worry about sanctions and not being able to use that? Why is that still leverage that the U.S. is able to use to negotiate, what they want to get out of a country?
Right. Very good point. Very good question there. And so I believe that these sanctions, most recently in the last, say 10 years of me being aware of what's happening with our global economy, it has turned out to be somewhat an appearance of the last push from the Western world to have those nations that are under sanction to cooperate with the old narrative of either you do what I say or we'll cut off your activity financially. And so that has spurred on the move away from the dollar, i.e. the de-dollarization process, with all of these other platforms and methods just being developed. So I believe that the sanctions prior to this time frame, where there were options, were quite effective. But as of now, I don't think they will have the same impact, especially moving forward as all of these other countries begin to work with each other around and outside the dollar. So I believe it's the United States of America's last way of saying, hey, this is our last chance to, actually impose sanctions before they come up with their own methods of doing international trade outside of our dollar Federal Reserve note. So let's give it all we can. Just give it all we got right now. That's what it seems like.
Okay. And is China one of the major power sources behind this new move? Kind of an alliance between Russia and China to de-dollarize? And doesn't China have an alternative to the SWIFT system already? And do they use it?
To my knowledge, with Russia and China over the last, at least ever since the Great Recession, 0809 time frame, have really, ramped up their cooperative type agreements. And so between them doing business with their own currency and that, I think it's called CHIPS. So I'm not sure the actual acronym itself, but it is the SWIFT system equivalent that they are using themselves. So I do believe that it is active amongst Russia and China, as well as probably all the surrounding nations. And I would like to say that Russia has also developed their own international payment method system-wise. So I believe both of those nations are up and running more so, but it's not really mainstream conversation at this point. But I believe that all the foundational works for a post-Bretton Woods type of system is already up and running, just not fully, as I tell some of my viewers, the light switch hasn't been switched on quite yet for them to actually reveal it to the world. But I believe that everything is needed on their end to be able to keep their economies rolling in case of some type of financial hiccup or meltdown where the SWIFT system, dollar system, the petrodollar system is no longer trusted. So I do believe that those countries are leading the way, of course, and that they are already ready for the after, as I call it, the monetary restructuring process as it continues to unfold.
Okay, so the Great Reset and light switch, what's your best guess for what the catalysts may be for such a paradigm shift?
Oh my goodness, that is a very good question there, and that's the thing.
That's all I ask, buddy.
Yeah, there's no. I don't know.
Does that give you time? Does that buy you time to think of?
There's so many things.
Think of an answer, huh?
There's so many things. I couldn't pinpoint one thing other than the fact that it seems like more and more news is coming out nowadays on ways that any domino could fall now, either from the west or east, and it could trigger something that we've never experienced, and of course in my lifetime. So I have no exact answer, put it like that.
Are you ready for another good question?
Yeah, please do. Go ahead.
All right. So accumulate silver.
Mm-hmm.
You like rounds.
Mm-hmm.
Prepare, for, possible supply disruptions when this happens, and, have some food and have some water. Do you think that let's get to crypto a little bit. So
Right.
Do you think that blockchain, which is being embraced by certain governments, although they don't like Bitcoin, to go, and the war on cash that that currently is happening,
Right.
what do you think is a possibility that the U.S. government, like in the 30s, would try and confiscate precious metals from their citizens?
Very good question there. And so actually to reference back to a prior interview I had with David Morgan, and I think that question was posed to him, and I'm of that same mindset that, with 300 and something million citizens here in this country, a very small portion of that actually understand what the importance of precious metals. So it's good to say it'll be hard for the powers that be, our government, to actually pinpoint where and who has what and of that nature. So I don't believe it's something that is possible. And on top of that, if they were to bring the idea of sound money to the forefront in regards to wanting to confiscate it, it would then inform the rest of the public. And then they themselves would wonder, why is the government looking to confiscate gold or silver from this small amount of people? And so they would probably question and wonder, is that something we should have ourselves? And then probably create somewhat of a panic and some type of frenzy of people wanting to go out and acquire it. So it might put them in a very tough spot. So I don't foresee them actually looking to confiscate it, other than just to, as Mr. Morgan hinted at, probably just figuring out a way to tax it down the line to where it'll make it to where you don't want to basically exchange it, because you're going to lose all of that excessive purchasing power that was probably, brought into that through inflation or whatever it might be at that time. So I don't see them confiscating it.
Okay. Do you see the governments embracing crypto so they eliminate cash completely and have a credit debit system so they know everything you do?
I do believe that is in the works. And so that's, as I hinted at earlier, why I'm so skeptical at the whole introduction and the timing of this cryptocurrency technology, because it happened post Great Recession and it seemed to be very timely. And I always question the source of it and the intentions of it. And since we're already in a predominantly digitized dollar environment anyway, cash is already scarce in comparison to the total amount of Federal Reserve digits that's being created. So I do believe that the blockchain will be utilized, and it won't be in the best interest of the public when it is centralized, whether it be through the Federal Reserve or Treasury or whatever entity tries to implement their token or coin for the public to use, just because it's designed to. And I did a video recently how we're coming down a home stretch with, the small amount of cash we have being our last resort of privacy and freedom. And so once, we either go cashless or the purchasing power is inflated away from the dollar, that will be our last little bit of privacy that we will have, because the next issuance of currency or whatever it might be will be blockchain based, and it's going to be centralized, and say bye-bye to your privacy, because at that point, everything will have to go through a medium of exchange in the form of a government or central bank. So it won't be no privacy to your financial dealings. So.
Okay, Mike, you brought up, and you said this, so you said there's a short supply of cash compared to all the digital dollars that are out there because of the fractional reserve system that every dollar out there you could lend 10 and then they could lend 10. So don't you think that there is a place for what is scarce, and the case for a bull market in the dollar initially during this crisis, and cash will also be an important thing for people to have besides silver?
I do agree. And so based upon my study, as well as, following other people in this monetary space, I know that especially after the last hiccup we had in our economy, that when a deflation environment type of thing starts, then cash is, of course, very valuable and important at that point. So my thought is that when this restructuring or monetary reset or whatever people tend to call it happens, that will be because of some type of credit freeze. And therefore, any type of physical cash that people can get a hold of will be of use, because you may not be able to use your debit card or your banking card. So it'll be important to have small increments of fiat currency. But then, as a response to the crisis or whatnot, I think monetary policy will kick in. And as it has shown in prior years, it's not in favor of the people. So it's going to be in favor of keeping our economy/banking system afloat. And so at that point, they might issue some form of QE, or, as some people say, helicopter money. And then when all those excessive notes come into play, that's when there will be a flood of currency, fiat currency. And that was when people will realize that it's the currency which will become the problem then. And then people, similar to what's happening in Venezuela, as well as other countries, are going to be looking to get rid of it. So paper will serve its purpose, in my opinion, in a very short window of time. But then once policy kicks in, they're going to print and go above and beyond what's needed, and then that's when we run into problems. So, but yes, I do agree. Short term, it would be very useful.
Okay, and with your website, I see your YouTube channel.
Right.
Do you have a subscription service, or are you doing this just to educate the people and possibly be nominated with President Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize?
No, actually, I do it via YouTube, just to reach out to more people that don't really have any type of financial or monetary background. So as I mentioned myself, not in the currency trading world or Wall Street area, just a simple guy who in his former years played professional sports, and I traveled the world, and I got to see how a lot of people around the world, especially in one of my favorite places, which is Argentina, how they're experiencing heartache and headache. So yeah. I've been there several times, lived there a while back. And so from that experience there, I came back and started rethinking the dollar, because I realized the similarities in our economies. And so I'm just looking to reach out and to inform whoever will listen.
Yeah, they're going through it again, aren't they, buddy?
Yeah. And it's just getting started. And so
they have pink money and blue money. And we thought this new president, a lot of people thought this new president there was going to be a great change for Argentina. Were you a major league or a professional baseball player?
No, I was a basketball player. So I'm,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
a
Oh, yeah.
little bit taller. So I played basketball in my
All right.
younger days. So
Yeah, a lot of basketball in Argentina. A lot of great players down there. So, did you play in the NBA?
no NBA for me. No, I went to a small college here right outside Michigan, and so had a
Okay.
chance after college to go travel the world for about 7 or 8 years, and so had the privilege of living in various countries from Argentina, Chile, Uruguay, Mexico, a little bit of Europe. So had a good little career, and in doing so, I had a chance to learn a lot and became very curious on currency. And so
Okay.
I collected all those currencies, and as I visit them still, I realized that the currencies that I had from that time frame are no longer worth anything. And i.e. the Venezuelan bolivar that I have from my time there aren't even in circulation anymore. So got me to really rethinking a lot of things. So just from my prior travels, got me to question a lot of things I was not taught formally in school. So that's how I arrived at this point.
How's your vertical jump still, Mike? Can you get over the rim?
Barely. I was actually in the gym playing around yesterday, and I could barely get above the rim, but I'm no longer.
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
You may not be able to do that, but this interview was a slam dunk.
Well, thank you, my friend.
And you know, I really commend you on, educating people so that they have something in case what guys like Jim Rickards and all these guys have been saying for years might happen. Yeah. And really think that, people may think that, hard money guys are crazy because they've made all kinds of money in stocks and everything else, and, FANG and you name it, now Bitcoin. So, it is, I think, an important, even mainstream guys say you should have 10% of your portfolio in gold related assets, and basically great to have it on hand. And since you do, and I was wondering if we could all have your address. We could all have your address, Mike. So we can...
No, but actually, speaking of which, if you don't mind, I actually yesterday, or for the next, so I consider this to be RTD, Rethinking the Dollar Monetary Awareness Month. So what I've done is actually, if you're interested, I would love to present the opportunity to your audience. And so I'm looking to give away a 10-ounce SD bullion silver bar via this registration here that I have on my screen here. So if people go to rethinkingthedollar.com/silver, you can enter there, and then at the end of this 30-day period, have the opportunity of winning a 10-ounce bar yourself to add to your collection or add to your portfolio if interested. So
I'm entering.
Okay.
I'm entering, and feel free to use this video on your YouTube channel to promote it. And it was a pleasure meeting you, Mike. I really think that what you're doing is a great service that people probably don't realize now is a great service, but someday will.
Well, thank you, Dale. I appreciate your time. I thank you for inviting me on your program, and hope I was of value to your listeners. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mike, my trading warrior brother. But you know what? Don't wait to buy silver. Buy silver and wait.
It's better to be, as some people say, too early than too late trying to get your hands on some of this precious God-given metal here. So I do agree.
All right, buddy. Thank you so much, Mike, for edifying our community today. That's it, everyone. Turnaround Tuesday is over. Gold took out 300 like I've been talking about for a few weeks. So we'll see what kind of buy set up, and we'll see you tomorrow. Good hunting. Enjoy the rest of your day. King Dollar, King Dollar. Adios, everyone.